So, like I said, I originally was writing it in story form, but it ended up being too long and not having enough time, so I'm going to go back and do that later. But for now I have it in essay form, just kind of like a summary like Tracy was doing. And I titled it The Small Story of Felix, small in italics. Felix is my main character. I guess you could say myself is projected on him, but I wouldn't really say myself, just more like similar traits like age. And I kind of like put him in a different world. I'm kind of went for like a early, or I mean like a late 19th century science fiction kind of thing going on here. So not quite steampunk, but like something along those lines. Felix is a chimney sweep. He lives in London. Had a lot of fun researching like on Google Maps, like looking at streets that he picked the street that he lived on and different like settings for the story. It's really cool. But Felix is a chimney sweep, and the main point of who he is in the beginning is that he's just ordinary. He's like the most plain person you can imagine, like plain personality, plain looks, like pretty plain job for back then, and you know he lives in a plain house. Like he's just kind of like, you know, not rich, not poor, not really anything. So that way he's a clean slate for the story. Two things happen to him in the story. He meets a girl named Charlotte. She's a really nice girl, and that kind of motivates him to start like doing more with his life. And then he gets a job. He's going to clean someone's chimney, but it's a really like weird guy. He's like kind of like just real eccentric. He's well known in the town, but nobody really knows who he is. So he's kind of like, oh, who is this guy? A lot of mystery, and again, clean slate. You don't need to know anything about him because that's what makes it interesting. So he goes in, he's doing the job, and he like tips over like a vial of something, and it ends up shrinking him to about 1 inch tall. So he's like, oh crap, like what am I gonna do? But so he reads the label that fell on the floor, and you know he has 1 day to like get back to normal size, and there's a vial on top of a table, and at 1 inch tall, that's gonna take a while to get to, but that will bring him back to a normal size. So you know he's on his way, like okay, I can do that. Give me a day. But he meets a mouse, and I'm still working on the names, but I kind of picked a name for each nationality. Like just picked, like Felix is a German name, Charlotte's a French name, the scientist's name is Ivan, a Russian name. So I was like, I'll give the mouse a good British name. Still working on that, but for now it's Jeffrey with a G. No, with S and all that stuff. But and pretty much the mice were made sentient and the ability to speak by all the science experiments going on in there. So you know he meets the mouse, and from what he can tell, looking around, there's like mouse traps and poison, and there's like a phone book with. I guess they didn't have phones back then. Well, yeah, they did. Phone book with like a steampunk phone. There you go. Has like a number for an exterminator, so he knows what's going on. Like they're all gonna be killed, like him and his whole family. It's a big colony. There's like hundreds of them. So he's like, well, I can warn them, or I can leave, and go save myself, because now his life's going somewhere. He has this great girl that he wants to get to know better, and his job is going better. Like everything is just now starting to get better for him, and then this happens. So he's like, what should I do? So he decides, and this is I broke it down into 3 sections of heroism. This is the heroic action. He decides to warn them, try to warn them. But they just kind of ignore him. They don't trust him. They don't care about him. They just want to do their own thing, because they're still mice. They're not quite as intelligent as human beings. But so pretty much the mice just ignore him. So he could have said at this point, well, I warned him. Can't say I didn't warn him, and go and save himself, come back to normal size, have a normal life. But like that would be only the semi-heroic thing to do. And so he decides to keep working at it and try to convince them that they're endangered and get out of there. So and that's what I kind of coined the term heroic, not action, but let me find it real quick. Deed, the heroic deed. It's more intentional. The first time he was just spur of the moment, I gotta do something, and chose something real quick. This is more intentional, more he thought about it, and this is what he decided. So in the end, he finally convinces them to get out of there, And this is as like the exterminator's walking in the door, and they're all gone, but none of them really thanked him because they didn't really have the capacity to thank him. Just like, oh, okay, like let's leave. So he's stuck there, like, and not just like not thank him, but like, you know, it doesn't really seem like they learned anything from it. Like nothing really came to fruition. So he's like, so I just sacrificed like my normality for these people who, or mice, who don't even like understand like what just happened. And so now he's stuck being a small person, which kind of sucks. So that's the final part of the heroic journey here, is that it's like the heroic attitude. So he has to decide now, like, how is he going to take it? Is he going to sit there and become bitter or mope about it, or is he going to, I guess, accept it and do what he can with it? So, you know, he struggles with this for a while, but in the end, decides to accept his fate. And then that one mouse that he met, as soon as he does this is all like, you know, you're rewarded for, he's finally rewarded. Comes back and like thanks him, and so then he like finally feels like, okay, what I did was worth it. And Charlotte decides that she's gonna shrink herself too, since he can't come back. And that's interesting, you know?
Okay.
And that's the end of my story. And my quote was, I kind of made a quote, like, for me, the most important thing about Felix was the idea that to be a hero, one must be willing to be an unsuccessful hero. So, like, at first it seems like, oh, he went through this whole journey, like, this heroic journey, he made or at least 2 out of the 3, 2 heroic decisions, and, like, nothing came of it. And now he's stuck in a horrible position. He's like, well, that was, like, just such a waste. But, you know, in the end, he did the final heroic action, which is your attitude and how you view what's right and what's wrong, and, you know, what's worth it. And in the end, that ended up, you know, making everything better. So that's what was my story.